You guys loved my first video on theoretically possible events, so I thought, why not make a part 2 on it? Also, in my first video on this topic, I made quite a lot of dumb errors, so in any new calculations involving the same stuff as last time, I've made changes that reflect what people said in the comments. So thank you to everyone for correcting me, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. With the Santa Hog Rider back as a temporary game mode, I thought it would be a fun idea to see if it's possible that the Santa Hog keeps dropping invisibility spells and 3 crowns by himself, just because of his invisibility, because it is theoretically possible. The Santa Hog Rider takes 10 hits to take the Princess Tower down, and 16 hits to take the King Tower down. Because he can only be affected by his presence when he's standing still, it actually makes my job really easy here. Since his hit speed is 1.6 seconds, the Hog Rider would need to be alive for 41.6 seconds actively hitting the tower. This means the Hog Rider needs to spawn 14 invisibility potions to keep himself invisible the entire time, since each potion lasts 3 seconds. And since each potion has the same chance of spawning, which is 25%, the probability of all 14 potions to be invisibility is this number, which is crazy because we can expect that a person probably plays around 4 Santa Hog Riders in a match, which means that on average, we can expect that around 1 in 67 million matches in this game mode will have at least 1 Santa Hog Rider in a match only drop invisibility spells. The only reason I think it isn't as common as people expect it to be is because the opponent often counters the Hog Rider before it gets the chance to drop all of its invisibility spells. But it is theoretically possible for around 1 active player to have this lucky of a Santa Hog Rider. And because of this, it's theoretically possible for a player to actually get 12 wins with a permanently invisible Santa Hog Rider. The chance of this happening is this number, which if we actually considered would be impossible to achieve, since the number of people that would need to play to get this to happen is this times more than the population of Earth. So yeah, while it would be cool if this happened, it's essentially impossible for it to happen, but it is theoretically possible. I feel like the trader feature is one of the most useless features in the game at the moment, since I feel like it just doesn't give enough cards to even be worth spending a whole trade token on, especially since trade tokens have essentially been removed from the game at this point considering how rare they are. But there is a funny and actually intended thing that you can do with trade tokens. It is possible for a card to show up in the same set that you're giving away to the trader, as well as the card that you're receiving from the trader. And the reason I know it's intended is because when you actually do the trade, it gives you a message saying that trade tokens are a terrible thing to waste. But that got me thinking, isn't it theoretically possible that every single set of cards will have its duplicate? The way the trader's role works is that every day, a single rarity is chosen so that you can use a single rarity's trade tokens. So that means from the 4 rarities, we choose 1, and then multiply it by the number of cards in each rarity, choose 3, and then arrange these 3 cards in a specific order. If we repeat this for all our rarities, we get that the chance that any given trade on a random day having the exact same cards in all 3 of them is this number. To be honest, this event doesn't actually seem that rare. We would expect that it would take around 8.8 billion total daily logins for this event to happen only once. To give you some context, there are around 30 million active players on this game, which I know is different to what I used in the last video, but this is the most recent data, so I think I'll use 30 million instead of 20 million. Using this daily active player count of 30 million, we can see that on average, every single one of these players would have to log in for 295 days in a row in order for only one of these players to have this type of luck, which I actually don't think is out of the question, especially when you consider how rare some of the other things I've talked about in this video is. So yeah, even though this event is extremely rare to occur in an isolated situation where we consider 1 player, if every single active player that plays Clash Royale checked their trader every day for 295 days in a row, we can actually get this event to occur. Of course, assuming that every player on average gets a different card arrangement in their trader every day. For some reason, the Hog Rider has a random chance of saying Hog Rider when he's deployed, and I feel like it's really weird that no one's talking about it, since it's kind of weird that there's even a random chance of him saying it, when he should play his in-game sound every time he's played, considering it's so iconic. And since I couldn't find any info online, I decided I would spend 20 minutes of my life testing how often he said Hog Rider when he was deployed. Yes, I know I'm jobless, but it was for the sake of science. So in 43 deploys, he played his in-game sound in only 6 of these deploys. Meaning in this little experiment here, I can roughly say that the chance of any given Hog Rider playing his deploy sound is around 6 out of 43, which is around 14%. And before I get comments about this, I am aware that me doing this random sample kind of goes against the premise premise of this video, because what if I got really lucky? Or maybe I should say unlucky. And what if it was meant to play the sound like 90% of the time but it didn't? And my counter argument to this is that I have played the Hog Rider quite a bit, and I know that it definitely doesn't play the sound like 90% of the time. But just in case I do get comments, I'll construct a 95% confidence interval, assuming that this is a normally distributed trial, and I'll consider both the worst and the best case scenario. When I make my 95% confidence interval, we can see that the range of probabilities that the Hog Rider plays as deploy sound is likely between 0.03 and 0.24. So I'll use both of these, but also I'll use my original 6 out of 43 calculation just to be sure. It is theoretically possible that a player who plays Hog Rider from the time they unlock it at 1300 trophies all the way until 10,000 trophies will always hear the deploy sound of the Hog Rider. And this time, I'll do my win rate calculation correctly, since I got a lot of comments on my original video, so thank you to everyone that commented. If we assume that a Hog Rider player has around a 55% win rate, and also if they win 30 trophies per win, and also lose 30 trophies per loss, it would take them 2,900 games to get to 10,000 trophies. For this calculation, I'll assume that a person plays the Hog Rider around 6 to 7 times per match. Therefore, we can expect that a player will play around 17,400 Hog Riders till they reach 10,000 trophies. Therefore, the chance that every single one of these Hog Riders will always play a sound is between this number and this number, if we consider our two bounds for the confidence interval, which is extremely rare. And I think it's actually the rarest event that we've had in this little series I've made so far. These numbers are so astronomically small that any calculator I used would output 0 for this number. So I had to calculate it slightly differently to prevent these calculators from reaching their decimal limit. And if we use my sample mean of 6 out of 43, we get that the chance of a Hog Rider always playing a sound is this number. To give you even a slight bit of context for this, assuming that each game was around 3 minutes long, you would have to play Clash Royale around this long to get this to occur. And assuming that the universe is going to survive this long, again, according to this person's comment in my last video, this event wouldn't even occur if the universe happened this many times, which is so insane that I can't even describe how rare this is. But what if we considered the chance that the Hog Rider sound never actually plays? The chance that a Hog Rider will not play a sound most likely lies between around 76% to 96%. So the chance that every single Hog Rider played will not play a sound at all is between this number and this number, which is much more likely than the other calculation. But keep in mind here, this event will probably never even occur even if you left Clash Royale on till the end of time, which is crazy to think about. This next one comes from a comment I got on my last video, and I thought it was really interesting. It is theoretically possible for you to get the same set of cards in your shop 2 days in a row. And then on top of that, it is also theoretically possible that you will get the same cards in your daily shop for a whole year. And since I want to be super accurate with this, I'm gonna account for the fact that the exact same cards appear in each slot. For example, if there is a card that you can buy for gems one day, I'm gonna calculate the chance of getting that same card for gems on successive days as well. The chance of a random set of cards being duplicated twice in a row in the shop is this number, which in itself is already extremely rare, since it means that we would expect around 124 billion daily logins having to happen on 2 consecutive days for this to occur only once, which I don't think has ever happened up to this point in the game's lifetime. But to be honest, it might happen in the future. But what if your daily shop looked the same for an entire year? The chance of this happening is this number, which much like the Hog Rider one, is so rare that it's beyond human comprehension. So yeah, it's safe to say that this event is never gonna happen. And regardless of how rare this event is, I think it would already be a crazy achievement to even get the same daily deals 2 days in a row in the first place. I think that every single Clash Royale player at least once in their career has played against Mega Knight enough times to get frustrated. And before I get comments about this, I'm not saying that Mega Knight is a hard card to play against. I'm just saying that it gets annoying at some point to play against it every single time. And even though it feels like sometimes you always just keep facing Mega Knight, isn't it theoretically possible that a player keeps facing Mega Knight in every single match from 0 trophies all the way up to 10k trophies? I think from 0 to 3,400 trophies, which is the arena where you unlock the Mega Knight, the chance of facing Mega Knight in every single game is genuinely just 0%, since there is no way you can face Mega Knight in Arena 1, unless you're going up against some overleveled troll deck. So for the sake of simplicity, I'm just gonna assume that you begin facing Mega Knight consistently from Electro Valley onwards. If we assume that a player has a win rate of around 55% on their way to 10k trophies, we know that it would take 133 games in each arena to get to the next arena until you reach 5,000 trophies. trophies, where it would then take 167 games per arena to reach 10,000 trophies. And the reason I'm being really specific about each arena is because the usage rate of the Mega Knight is different in each arena, so I'm trying to be as accurate as possible. Okay, I know I just said that I'm gonna do it for each arena for the sake of accuracy, but I didn't realize how long it would take to calculate each arena all the way up to arena 25. So I'll just take the Mega Knight's average usage rate in ladder, since it's actually essentially the exact same as just doing each one individually. What this means is that from arena 11 to 25, using our 55% win rate, we can see that a player needs to play 2,167 games to get to 10,000 trophies. The average usage rate of the Mega Knight in ladder is 23.84%. Therefore, the chance of facing Mega Knight in every single one of these matches is this number, which is essentially impossible. So I guess a player can be rest assured that it is basically impossible for you to face Mega Knight in every single match up to 10k trophies. But theoretically, it is possible. I just feel so bad for the hypothetical player in this scenario, since facing Mega Knight consistently in over 2,000 matches must be insane. But what if a player gets very lucky and never has to face Mega Knight in their journey to 10k trophies? The chance of any given deck not having Mega Knight on average is around 76.16%, which means that the probability of a player not facing Mega Knight all the way up to 10k trophies is this number, which again is essentially impossible. So it means that no player is safe from the Mega Knight, but theoretically it is possible for a player to never face the Mega Knight. In this situation, I can just imagine how confused the player would be hearing all the hate about the Mega Knight when this player has just never been given the opportunity to face the Mega Knight. So yeah, it is entirely possible for a player to always face the Mega Knight, but it's also entirely possible that a player will never face the Mega Knight in their Clash Royale career. One thing that I've seen a lot of people complain about since the beginning of Clash Royale is the randomness of your starting hand. Your starting hand is 4 randomly chosen cards from your deck that appear at the very beginning of a match, and in some cases, it can actually define how well the match goes. For example, if another player has Hog Rider in their starting hand, but you don't have your building, then the opponent can either get free damage or a positive elixir trade, and that sets up the rhythm for the rest of the match. This is what a lot of people call getting starting handed, where you get screwed over by your starting hand. Now obviously, there are some rules for which cards can and can't be in the starting hand, such as it being impossible for the elixir collector or mirror to show up in the starting hand, but generally speaking, it is completely unpredictable. So the point I'm trying to make here is, isn't it theoretically possible that your starting hand will always be the same 4 card positions? What I mean by positions here is the chance that the starting hand will always be the 4 cards that you place first in your deck. Now, the reason I'm saying starting 4 positions is to cover for 2 main things. One, it's to cover for the fact that Elixir Collector and Mirror messes up the chances if they're in random positions. So for this, we assume that the Elixir Collector and Mirror are not allowed to be in the starting 4 positions. And that makes sense, since the first 4 card positions are either Evos or Heroes if you're at Legendary Arena. But reason number 2 is that it allows me to account for the fact that your deck cannot possibly be the same from Arena 1 to Legendary Arena, because by considering card positions, we eliminate the variation in the same players' decks in different arenas. So to bring everything together, what I'm saying here is that it's theoretically possible for a player to place the 4 cards they want in their starting hand in the first 4 positions of their deck, and always have these cards in their starting hand starting from 0 trophies up to 10k trophies. So again, I'm gonna use around a 55% win rate for this calculation, meaning that it would take 3,334 games to get up to 10k trophies. Now, the chance of these 4 specific cards being the entire starting hand is 1 out of 70, because there are 70 possible starting hand combinations. Therefore, the chance of getting this same starting hand all the way up to 10k trophies is this number, which is absurdly rare. And I've already said this in the video already, but anything that is to the power of even less than -1000 is basically never gonna happen within the lifetime of the universe. So I guess it goes to show that on average, it should be impossible for a player to always get the same starting hand, but it is a theoretically possible number. But I do see the argument against fixing the starting hand, since that would make games really boring if a deck always had the exact same starting play. Let me know what you guys think about this. Now, if we were to build on the starting hand thing, what if your card cycle in a match always started off as the order of the cards in the deck? So we can have a preferred starting hand, and then the remaining 4 cards each show up in the order after each card is played. What I mean by order is, it shows up in number order of each card position in the deck. For example, the card in position 5 shows up in the little up next image at the bottom of the starting hand. And once a card is played, the up next image shows the 6th card in the deck, and so on. The total number of possible arrangements of the 8 cards in a deck is 8 factorial, and the number of arrangements that include the preferable starting hand and the cards in their specific order is 70. This means the chance that a deck will appear exactly in order aside from the preferred starting hand is 0.174%, which compared to the things we've talked about already, seems really likely, but it's still pretty rare. It means that we would expect that out of 576 players, only one of these players will have this type of luck. Now obviously, this is happening to a lot of players, but the reason not many people talk about it is because no one really pays attention to the order of the cards in their deck. So I guess if you want to be more attentive next time you play the game, first look at the order of the cards in your deck, and see if you can actually get the first 4 cards in your starting hand, and then the following 4 cards in the correct order. I could do the same thing as before, and consider it happening all the way up to 10k trophies, but I think it's just so unrealistic to occur, so I don't think it's even something that a lot of people care about in the first place. It's just a small thing that I was thinking about. I hope you enjoyed this video though. Thanks for watching.